Well, it connects into the interdimensional grids and nexus ports that run and distribute throughout the whole entire scenario of the matrix itself. And it categorizes and motivates, and it can manipulate the inner subconsciousness and the neurons that can go intact to the inner and outer banks of the planetary realm. It can affect a lot of things. But there are controllers on the good side that help motivate the certain lines of events that categorize with this. Stonehenge isn't the only one that has subterranean networks or singular.
Everybody, welcome to episode 67. Blue, how are you?
Very well today, Mike.
Hey, what are we going to talk about today in episode 67?
Oh, we have discussed about similarities before with Stonehenge, but this is where it gets interesting, because now we're going to be going deeper and we're going to activate what needs to be aligned for the Nibirian Geodic crystal grid, which is WormWood. Part of the systems on the underground 24 subterranean molecular controlled networks that run through Stonehenge itself and the systems of the Matrix, the planet. What it does, what it has to do with Nibiru, what it has to do with the actual DNA control network stream, the control structure of mankind, and the crystal systems itself.
Well, it sounds interesting. I'm looking forward to diving back in here. And first off, though, I do want to thank everybody for watching. Thank you for listening wherever you find us. If we're not on your favorite platform, let us know where that is, and we'll do our best to get on that platform. Also, make sure you go ahead and please like, subscribe, follow, all those fancy words here, so you get indication when we post new material, because we don't have a set schedule per se. And but we do post new material quite often, and you can find us on all the socials. We do respond on the socials as well. Sounds like we got a lot to talk about today, Blue. Let's get right into it.
Absolutely. Wormwood, Stonehenge. Stonehenge was built in a special geometry atop the Nibiru geodic crystal, NDC, to counteract the NDC's ability to mutate DNA by reversing the planetary Merkaba, the structure of the actual lines itself, altering its spin rates and reversing the DNA codes in Earth's grid systems. And we got to understand that we all run through some type of DNA structure or ether code itself. And that can be manipulated, it can be rerouted, it can be circuited, the neurons itself. The inabilities or the abilities to act in the way one can perceive. Now, it generates the checkerboard mutation, reverses the fire letter sequences and creates junk DNA. And we already see a lot of humans, and it's up and down throughout the timelines, just the way that they are encoded into a box scenario. And their manufacturing codes are not subjugated to something to what they should be. They're programmed.
Yeah, it's very interesting you said that with the checkerboard. I just was watching something. I was flipping around on the TV. I rarely do that, but I was, and I came across something, and it was one of these things where they talk about somebody who had an encounter years ago, and they were showing the marks that he had on him, and they weren't sure if it was from like a nuclear thing on the craft itself or what, but it left, you could see it. It left like a pattern physically on him, and that just, sorry, I just had to go there real quick. Tell me more though, why is it called WormWood? Because I know of WormWood, and there was a movie named WormWood, I think, and I keep hearing wormwood. I don't understand the significance. What?
Right. Before we get into that, we're going to discuss a little more about the checkerboard mutation, so
Okay. All right.
humans are
Good.
aware of it. It's generated from multiple alien machinery systems that reverse the energy current fields throughout the planetary grid system, the networks. It splits them into bi-wave frequencies. The bi-wave frequencies interact with the consciousness of the planet itself, of the systems of the entities there. And allows for extreme polarity amplification in the collective consciousness. So the energies that go through that get directed in its field and split between the polarity zones, generates extreme densification. It produces it also what helps to produce gender reversals in human's light body and gender splitting. It reverses and tends to maintain reversal networks in the Earth's plane to keep human DNA unplugged. And the DNA in control of the timelines on the Earth's grids itself. So humans are pretty much in a controlled sequencing base because of these networks, these subterranean networks. Checkerboard mutation helps enact do that. They generally motivate through the structures itself. Now going back to wormwood, the Nibiru battle star. It refers to the Nibiru Anunnakis. And we talked about the Anunnaki, the ancient council before, and generally they're supposed to be running on a good algorithm string and circuited code through the Nibiru systems. But there is a sever through this, and that runs into the Nephilim. And a hierarchy of certain other type of Anunnaki subspecies that works through those. And we have discussed about how the Nephilim before, there were bi-sequencing bases between humanoid projects and a higher terrestrial affair. And they're not good. They're huge. They could run out for cracks and crevices of the Earth and other dimensions and can cause problems. And they could run through a networking string through other sub-inlet codes, other subspecies, like the certain Anunnaki councils that aren't on good terms and help to control the networks. It refers to being a controlled battle star. So it was a controlled battle star that existed on the plateau of the counter orbit to the Nibiru planet in our solar system and or human solar system. The alien architecture leaches into the former body parts of the exploded Tiamat, which is the phantom matrix of Tiamat. So there had been an exploded intact code of effect of a Stargate at one time. And they use that peripheral mode to create some type of battle star. That battle star's co-creation sequencing base to the Nibiru systems, but it's in directed field to these types of entities that have cooperated with it.
Wow. You just said a bunch of stuff that just went over my head, like half of it. And I'm paying attention. I am. I need to grasp this. So, folks, do what I'm going to do. When we get done and this is posted, I'm going to go back and I'm going to listen to it again because I want to make sure I took everything in there. Is this something I need to be worried about now? Is this something I need to think about today?
Well, and a possibility, know that the control network schemes that run through the underground tunnels itself that relay between the structures could be coordinated a bit better, and do not need to have a possibility code of a manipulation sequencing base go upon here. There is a motive to the higher dimensions of the base of the Federation to maintain these Stargates and the tribes that go through it. Now, the possibility that runs through that coordinates through the ascension process of timeline tables in the generative mode of the crystal DNA structure of mankind. So there's another alternative side to this. Okay, we had a controlled network and humans boxed in because their DNA sequencing codes was possibly manipulated by variables underground that run through the ley lines distributed. But also that the control variables of the DNA sequencing codes that run through mankind could possibly be motivated forward through the good intact parts of the Bureau. So thinking about the liberation of the planet itself, the alignment of the organic ascension timeline, and the alignment of the eventual positive outcome for humanity begins with the onset of collective awakening event, which we are noticing here now starting in 2025, that Donald Trump, since he had gotten into presidency, had already activated on several more occasions about and or coded the golden age. It's the same thing as the quantum age. It's the same thing as the new age. And he's coding this out here for a reason. It's possibility terms that go within the networks for do this, and understanding that there are forces out there that are on a good term. And we already understand that we have been enacted through slavery, and that there are certain entities and or corporations that could have possibly have used a controlled network line upon the subconsciousness of mankind for such and such time and caused such chaos, it flipped everything over. We've already noticed that, Mike, within the last, 4 to 6 years or more?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So, we got to understand the consequences of what's going to happen. We also understand that the good things of what can happen now. The consequences of what could have happened if we kept coordinating what we did with these certain entities. And now what could happen, what we can do for the better age. So going back to this, though, to Stonehenge, the Platonic events that reveal itself that our higher species are already coordinating here. And we have strategic operations behind the scenes that are manually set in order. Let's say maybe something similar to this has happened before, but not the exact same thing. And it could have either happened in a catastrophic event that turned the tables, or it happened in a timeline event that motivated the inner subconscious forward of everything that's here upon this planet.
This whole thing reads like a movie to me, because I can see all these things happening that we talk about and how they're interconnected, but it plays like a movie, like something I would binge watch on Netflix. So Netflix, if you're paying attention and you're taking notes, you know where to find Blue. Here we go back with Stonehenge again. I mean, this has been around for a long time. It's been curious to people for a long time. Are you saying that this is some sort of power grid, power station or something? Is that what you're saying?
Well, it connects into the interdimensional grids and nexus ports that run and distribute throughout the whole entire scenario of the matrix itself. And it categorizes and motivates, and it can manipulate the inner subconsciousness and the neurons that go intact to the inner and outer banks of the planetary realm. It can affect a lot of things. But there are controllers on the good side that help motivate the certain lines of events that categorize with this. Stonehenge isn't the only one that has subterranean networks or singular. There are other ancient artifacts or ancient places out there, including certain places like in Egypt and the Giza platforms, Antarctica. There are respective places closer to, I believe, southeastern America, and the Mayan civilizations coordinated with it, some of those platforms. And then they also have Easter Island, which I believe runs through some type of networks as well. There are several others out there too. It's not just the pyramids. There are things just like this that because of the way they're outletted and where they're at, and if it has a control of geomagnetical push line, it can be on top or it can be underneath. It can even be up above as well.
You think Nikolai Tesla was aware of this whole thing? That was his
Of
trying
course.
to help people?
The Tesla, yes. The Tesla arcs, they categorize to very, very high amounts of frequencies that distribute from underneath going upwards. And there are intact codes that can categorize upwards downstream on a geomagnetical push or pull.
Speaking of Tesla, I know we want to talk about Tesla today and AI some more.
Elon, AI Sustainability Act, AI Tesla Sustainability Act. Tesla lined Stargate subterranean ports. We have discussed about this before with the boring systems and a directive that coordinate what Elon Musk and his corporation has and what could be outletted for the near future. We already know that he has the Vegas Loop is called, planned a 68-mile underground tunnel system in Las Vegas, Nevada, that will transport passengers in the Tesla vehicles. Now, we got to start with this route, but in the near future, because he has already been diligently seeking out things that have to do with Stargate. We discussed about it before, that the outlet that drive underneath these tunnels will help alleviate some of the congestion from on top. But to create main routes of certain dimensions, there's a possibility term once the Neuralink sets in and the Sustainability Act through it. So humans are able to maintain more on a code of ethics between them and what they can project through hyper advanced technologies. These networking tunnels, they will be eventually working towards to maintain a code of ethics for a Stargate scenery effect. Stargate is a wormhole, a flat throat that allows a traveler to pass through it to another location. Just so if nobody knows exactly what that means.
My mind is just blown today with everything we're talking about, but I hear Stargate and I think of a movie that I saw a long time ago, and then from talking with you, quite often I've put that together and what that really meant, like, going through a portal, if you would, and just giant, circular shaped thing with, squirrely stuff in it that was taking you to another place or another time. And we've always talked about them hiding things in plain sight, i.e. when we're going to talk about the SCP Foundation or other things we talk about. We're talking about that now. If you've been paying attention in the news, they just announced the Stargate project since Trump took office. Elon's, all these high-tech people and AI people are involved in this. Elon's going to build this new supercomputer. His subterranean ports are called Stargate. All these things, it's just blowing my mind. It's right there in front of our faces, but we're so busy with the mundane things of every day, we're not paying attention. And that just really bothers me that there's so few people, I feel, paying attention to this. It just, and I really wasn't either. But you know what? But it just hits me when I'm talking to you. This is crazy. This is crazy stuff. How does this work with his robotics and everything else?
Well, before we get into that, speaking of Stargate, we already know what the tunnels right now. He's got to do everything on a level and motivated upwards. He can't do everything. Can't just move Stargate all at once and start those tunnels and then move. Right. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's got to be in a motivational technique. Now, look what you said. His SpaceX company did buying the Stargate Technology Center, facility in South Texas that was previously used for astronomy research. Go look it up online, people. Center is located near Boca Chica Beach, which is part of SpaceX's primary Boca Chica compound. Stargate Technology Center was built in 2017, was originally used for astronomy research by the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley. SpaceX began leasing the building after the university discontinued the program. So they already been working on these projects behind the scenes. Yeah, others like us in the Federation maybe help motivate it, but he's already got this on tact. He knows what he's doing. And he expanded their operations at the center and included building a multi-story rocket hangar as well.
I see he's going to build this supercomputer now. I guess he's going to be part of building this infrastructure for AI. He's got the satellite system surrounding us, going to enable us to probably advance into quantum age, change banking like we know it, change our monetary systems and trade I just feel like he has these ideas and he's had these ideas and he's like, well, I need a tunneling company. Well, there isn't a good one. Okay, I guess I'll start one of those. Or I want to go to Mars. Well, there's not a way for me to go. Okay, guess I'll do SpaceX. I mean, this guy's doing stuff like that. Like, okay, I guess I'm like, okay, I guess I'll go wash my vehicle. Oh, he's like, okay, I'll just go to Mars. I mean, this guy is insanely intelligent and he must be a supreme delegator. I mean, I can't get done the things I need to get done. This guy's running half the world.
Well, there are codes out there. I might be an alien from Elon Musk. I might be motivating things behind the scenes with other races. Hint, hint. Oh, what do you know? Me and Donald Trump are now best friends, and Donald Trump's been dealing with stuff with Area 51 and the quantum medical sciences. People, wake up. All right. And speaking of quantum, we're going to go down to robotics now. Healthcare and robotics. The healthcare biomedical engineering system. The assistants can do and how engineering through robotics can help on a health term. Now, medical robotics, regulatory, ethical, and legal consideration for increasing levels of autonomy. The regulatory, ethical, and legal barriers imposed on medical robots necessitate careful consideration of different levels of autonomy as well as the context for use. Now, we already know what robotics can play out for, and we know that the systems and the levels that code of ethics can deal with healthcare systems currently. With humans, what they already know, and their generative medicines. Their technologies. So when we go into robotic healthcare, we're going into an expansion of AI itself, what it can do and how more intact it can be to help mankind, to help those that possibly need surgery or some type of alleviated issue that a regular human, if they made this, compared to a robot, a regular human, it could cause more of an issue. The human could pass away. You know, we have a lot of different surgeries out there, a lot of different things that could happen, even cutting lasers, whatever. Robots can be more directive. But with that directive, obviously, they would need the human's compatibility mode to help maintain this order. There are robotic healthcare systems out there, I believe several into China. They have sustainability systems here to certain areas in America that deal with healthcare robotics. These itself are run through certain levels of autonomy. So if you had an extra robotic assistant, whether it's humanoid in structure or just an arm itself, a productive robotic arm, they run on different levels. The 0 level includes teleoperated robots as prosthetic devices respond to and follow the user's command at all costs. Level 1 robot assistance provides some mechanical guidance or assistance during a task while the human is continuous support and control. Level 2 of the robot is autonomous with specific tasks initiated in a human. The difference in level 1 is the operator has discrete rather than continuous control of the system. Level 3, conditional autonomy, system generates task strategies. Level 4, high autonomy, robot can make medical decisions on its own, but under the supervision of a qualified doctor. Full autonomy, no human needed, is a robotic surgeon that can perform an entire surgery on its own. And a robotic surgeon is currently a realm of science fiction, though they say that, but they are working towards that type of level, the highest level itself, that can create a generative mode of healthcare science for humankind. Right now, they should just maintain the robotics, be manualized, set, and controlled by humankind to a point for healthcare systems until we can get to that certain type of level or certain type of timeline.
You know, I trust a robot to build a car. I don't know about a surgery. I mean, on me. You know, maybe for those other people, but not on me. This is crazy. And these things have been around for a while, but not to the level that you're talking about, not with the decision-making capabilities and so forth. So that's stunning to me. Wow. That's awesome. We are living in an awesome time, folks. I mean, just make sure you take copious notes, pay attention, do like I'm starting to do, and I'm collecting information of what really happened in history. Because as we know, the victors go back and rewrite history sometimes, and that's happened, and that's happening still. So, wow, it's crazy.
Yes, one more thing we were going to discuss is the neuromorphic computing, an approach to computing inspired by the structure and function of the human brain. Neuromorphic computing chips is a device that uses physical artificial neurons to do computations and used to describe analog, digital, emission mode, analog VLS software systems, as well as a key aspect of neuromorphic engineering is understanding how the morphology of individual neurons, circuits, applications, and overall architecture of the AI itself creates desirable computation effects on how information is represented. Influences to incorporate learning and development, adaptation, and local change itself is evolutionary change. Neuromorphic engineering is an interdisciplinary subject, takes inspiration from biology, physics, mathematics, computer science, and electronic engineering to design artificial neural systems, such as vision systems, head-eye systems, auditory processors, and autonomous robots, whose physical architecture and design principles are based on those of biological nervous systems. So like AI computing certain generative robotic systems itself, the neuromorphic engineering could be proposed to remediate certain problems at hand. It mimics the human's brain structure and function through the computation of AI, neural networks and spikes, memory techniques. It runs through base systems to computers, but the autonomous agents itself can be bioengineered through a more substantial mode that could push a generic formational code forward. The challenge is though it's still a relatively new technology, so there are a lack of standards for hardware, software, and architecture. And it can be difficult to evaluate the performance of neuromorphic systems.
This is fascinating because what you're talking about is this AI is, you may not be able to tell that it's AI. Like, it thinks like a human is what we're talking about. We're talking about the ability to make decisions, the ability to do tasks and so forth. But the decision making, I think, is the critical part.
Well, neuromorphic computing is known as neuromorphic engineering approach to computing that mimics the way the human brain works. Entails designing hardware and software that simulates the neural and synaptic structures and functions of the brain to process information. Similar to the projected knows that certain neural technologies could possibly help motivate the minds forward, as well as AI computes itself. But generally, AI on its own could be motivated a bit better and equalized between two terms.
Crazy stuff. And oh, who owns a company that does neuro stuff with the putting the chip? Oh yeah, Musk. This guy's everywhere, man. This guy is everywhere. I know where he's not. He's not at the SCP Foundation.
Yes, SCP-152, Book of Endings. SCP-152 is a large hardbound book with leather bindings. The contents of the book consist entirely of a series of entries that describe apocalyptic events, which are not always XK-class end-of-the-world scenarios, but invariably deal with the extinction of humanity. It's interesting because the entries arranged in chronological order, and beginning with an unexplained spontaneous failure of the sun in 6000 BC, and ending with other events close to the present day. Many of the entries describe apocalypse caused or facilitated by objects that were in Foundation custody as well. So they are of a paranormal nature. There are also records of human extinction caused by more conventional means, such as nuclear warfare, deadly viral epidemics. Hint, hint. That's how we got going on currently. Now we're going to have to start lowering that field down and stop that.
Is this where they get that phrase, they threw the book at me? Or they're going to throw the book at them?
This book may come from the central source itself. Who knows? Each entry describes in some detail the events leading up to the calamity. Now, it's been observed that the entries change to whatever language the reader is most comfortable with, up to the point where the sentence structure can change significantly from reader to reader. So it gets interesting. There have not been any known language as well with the translation of the book. Most of the information contained is accurate, diverging only at a point where the apocalypse occurs. In almost all cases, the difference is that a few key decisions were apparently made differently in SCP's version of history. So there could be an alternated difference. It could be motivated a little bit off the balance than what it currently is. Humans, though, those in the Foundation are not able to manipulate this book. They're not able to move it around, not able to write into it. It's self-updating, newly inked entries, and new descriptions of how the last human died appearing at an unpredictable interval. Always on the last page of the book, though, the date that his new entry appears corresponds with the date given in the entry of the death of the human species. This thing, you don't think about the book of their own death. That's what you're thinking about. The book of life or the book of death. This thing could just be nailed down into the perceptions of the matrix itself, the planetary realm, and a certain higher dimensional intact stream could be manually setting this forward. Yeah, there could be a possibility that the notes in the page could be pushed into another time interval, pushed into something else with the exactation of it. They do not really have to maintaining that order. It's actually not being updated each time it's being replaced, and it changes during the time zones. This book is kept. It's considered class Keter. I know they put down as Euclid to it, but as far as I'm concerned, and with Keter would be better. And in the custody of the Foundation itself. So no regular human can be able to just start reading through this. And there is a thing called time traveling, or the control of the timelines. So there's certain entities that they do grab a hold of the foundations of this book, and they see to it through what's going on, they can alternate that course. And we wouldn't want to have something that could possibly be a really negative entity that could do something for that or like that. There's a possibility it could be a good entity, but there are courses of the change of the events of the space-time continuum. It can affect things, even if it's written down. Sight to awareness.
Wow. It's crazy you brought that thing in with the timelines, because I've been focused on that the past month or so. I've even discovered that, and this is another whole show, time is not linear. It's not. So, but that's another whole show. How about the next SCP we're going to talk about? 255. This looks like an interesting one.
255, Base 11 Disorder. It's an anomalous affection phenomenon of extraterrestrial origin. Now, how humans are getting diseases upon the timelines, and then there's these new diseases or whatever that goes sicknesses upon them. And you don't know where they come from. And this is kind of like similar to COVID, all these different strands or other sicknesses going on. And then the scientists say it to make it up, eternally put it out there. Some of this stuff wasn't man-made. Some of the things that get humans sick actually come into the planetary realm. And it can be coordinated through a higher amounts of solar fissionary motives. That means that electromolecularized control that moves certain types of redefined organisms into effect upon the planet. And those organisms are very, very, very tiny. And they could be living, and they can create something that fundamentally affects the neuron systems. So this type of origin and manifests in most living subjects as a neurological disorder with varying symptoms. All of those will carriers have thus far been observed to be organisms possessing a cerebral cortex with approximately 5.4 billion neurons. Experimentations to determine the species capable of contracting obviously include humans, chimpanzees, African elephants, bottlenose dolphins, false killer whales, and others. They run into higher intact codes of neurons of species that are more manually set on a hyphenated sequencing base, like ourselves and other types that have more intact knowledge from more intact neurons that could affiliate through their hypercellular structure. In non-human carriers, it causes through unknown means the degeneration of the motor neurons and the nerve cells itself. And the severity can relate to symptoms that are inversely to the neurons the subject possesses in the cerebral cortex. So it mainly hits the brain matter waves, the sickness. And the sickness is a disease that's caused by an infection phenomenon from a higher terrestrial organism from outer space. And it hits upon certain timelines through this planetary realm and others. And scientists have been paying attention to that as well because it will hit the population through zones. Those infected by it are diagnosed normally through the EEG observation and confirmation of verified markers and measurements in their neurological activities.
Wow. Seems like we just went through something like this not long ago. Wow. This is crazy.
Maybe there was because this is there are recent activities too of this, 2023, I believe, 22, and those are similarities that propel the neurons forward negatively. And it caused an escalated amount of a phenomenon to occur upon the mainframe of the neurons of mankind, certain areas through that.
And what do we have to report from the Space Force and the Federation?
When Elon Musk was gifted a cool jacket, he codes out there, I'm wearing this jacket that was given to me by the Space Force. It's got Star Trek Enterprise on it. We want to make Starfleet Academy real. Let's go out there and visit other star systems and see if there are alien civilizations. Oh my goodness, people. Well, if we are already enacting the Federation, here we go. It's not all just AI he's directing. Elon wants that other part too. And so do several other elites behind the scenes, corporations, including mankind. So I haven't even stayed on our end through the Force Department. Let's make it happen, Captain. Let's protect the emotions of mankind and stabilities of the foundations of what can come next.
Wow. It's awesome stuff.
Mark, right?
I'm so happy that I'm living in a time with Elon Musk. I just can't say it enough. I mean, this must be like living in a time of Tesla or Edison or people like that back in the day, if you really were paying attention anyway. Wow, that's crazy stuff.
Yes. And then we're dealing with Facebook. Zuckerberg, according to sources, promised not to interfere with Trump's plan. Sounds like he got rerouted too. Sounds like generally the fact checkers on Facebook and those that run through these corporations won't cause so much of a problem now, especially to those that are producing the right for mankind. So Mark Zuckerberg, CEO of Meta, reportedly assured Donald Trump's advisor and Stephen Miller in Mar-a-Lago late last year that he would not interfere with the president-elect's plans. So that's a good thing.
You shouldn't have to come out and say, I promise not to do anything bad. You shouldn't have to do that. But that's where we are. That's what it is. Crazy.
And it's been coded out there, though, through several things that, supposedly he's going to go working on the good terms. Let's see if he's actually routed that way. Let's see if they generally move those formal neuron speeds forward better. Elon Musk, Starlink, now available in 120 countries. Starlink, one of the most remote, now available in Tuvalu, one of the most remote island nations in the world, marks 120th country territory, another market where Starlink can provide high-speed internet. Now, we know Starlink servers run through generative modes of several different things to communication. And their next motivational technique, which hopefully will run through the neural conjunctures of mankind and what we can do to link up through telepathy and the communications line of the quantum age. And Starlink itself to help project and maintain more protective layers as well throughout the planet, and even the exoplanets, even the other systems, even where humans could possibly motivate themselves to next, including Mars.
He does want to go to Mars. Musk wants to go to Mars. Again, I can't say enough. I'm happy to be living in the times we're living in. Are we ready to talk about the ET or mystical creature of the week?
Absolutely. The Darren Egaoth. The Darren Egaoth, an ancient spiritual being, was set to higher densities to protect their civilization from the Arcturian empires. It possessed the rare ability of shape-shifting and travel in Hathor interdimensional vessels. Humans have seen throughout the ages what looks like orbs in the sky. And they have different color variations. Sometimes they look elemental, like they could just run right through them. But they're not considered ghosts, spiritual orbs. These types of orbs are etheric orbs, interdimensional vessels that can run through hyper-interdimensional entity codes, such as these. And their ships, besides its orbs that they can traverse through because they're sequencers that can maintain the ability of shape-shifting. They also have their intact ships, which exhibit geometrical shapes such as diamonds, Lazanes, and Merkaba, symbolizing their profound understanding of the cosmic energies. Proactive species, authorical beings of pale brown to pale gray skin, and magnificent indigo eyes, enable them to materialize up to the ninth densities, which are several amounts of densities that exist within the dimensions. And they could coordinate on how entities move and their capabilities itself.
I'm looking at the photo that I have here, and they kind of look generally like some of the other what we call aliens or extraterrestrials from somewhere else or some other time. It's all like black and white with a little bit of color. Are they that pale? Or are they darker?
Well, like I said, they're authorical skated beings with brown to pale gray skin and magnificent indigo eyes. They are archetypal Orion elders. Or Orion elders, I believe. They're Orion elders, and they're mixed gray species characterized by their tall stature, pale skin, and large skulls. So they do exhibit pale skin as well. They possess a serene wisdom and are highly spiritual. They're not driven by conquest, by a quest by knowledge and balance.
All right, so these are definitely good guys.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And they're dedicated to maintaining the universal balance, and they work tirelessly alongside the Galactic Federation of Worlds. So they are one of the several intermediate species that work and coordinated with the Intergalactic Federation of Worlds itself. That is real. There are motivations behind the scenes that cooperate with governments, certain types of organizations and military that have worked through the timelines for eons, including upon this planet and several others. Humans, they only get a little bit of what's really going on, but they're stuck on one box, one timeline.
It's crazy. I know we've talked about that before, different timelines going on, and we've talked about different dimensions that are happening right around us that we may not be able to perceive and so forth. All that's really crazy to me. Wow. Well, I'm glad that we're able to talk about the ET mystical creature of the week each time, because it opens up my mind to understand there's more than just us. There's tons of different life forms out there. So, wow. We got a lot packed in this show. 67. Nice stuff. Good job. Good job. I want to thank everybody for watching. Thank you for listening. But before we go, I just want to remind you, go ahead and send us a note on the socials. Hit like, subscribe, follow, all those fun things. And oh yeah, look, we're matching today. We're matching all the way around. If you want gear like we have, you can find the links here posted. And hey, jump aboard for the cause. Blue, excellent stuff again in episode 67. I look forward to episode 68.
Absolutely. And folks, just like Donald Trump, my quantum twin says, welcome to the golden age.
Yes, welcome to the golden age.